Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet. Welcome to episode 51 of the My House Podcast. I am not Michelle Overstreet. I am Isaac Smolden, and today I'm joined by Carl and Frank from the E.A.R project.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for being here today with me.
Thanks for bringing us over here.
So, tell me a little bit. You know, we've been talking for a couple of weeks now, and just tell me. We're going to talk about the E.A.R project. That's E.A.R. It's an acronym, I'm assuming. But tell me a little bit about what caused you to begin working on this project.
So about a few months ago, Frank and I have been talking about. We've been talking about Viktor Frankl and, you know, the meaning and purpose in life and really what can we do? Because we were feeling a lot of conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, about our mistakes and how can we heal from this appropriately?
Yeah.
So what we talked about is we need to do something to untangle our past and make sense of this.
Right.
So what better way than to share our experiences, some ideas that we have, some possible anecdotes, some comparisons, and get it out there for the public. And what we really want to do is bridge the gap between the individuals that are out there using right now
Mm-hmm.
and the providers that can professionally help them.
Yeah.
Because right now there's a lot of stigma, you know, in between the two, and you know they're kind of keeping their distance from one another because they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're afraid to go and talk to professional people because they already feel as if they have they have a mark that they're carrying as someone who may be dirty, someone who. We're living in a tent, you know, who could love us? And this addiction is getting them right at their most weakest moments.
Right.
So we thought, hey, you know what? We need to make some meaning and purpose out of this. And what better way than to not only share our own experiences, but to get out there and get active in this.
Yeah.
Because we can no longer sit by idly and know what we know and not participate.
Right.
So that's kind of what we discussed, you know, and
Yeah.
it just, go ahead, Frank.
So I came to ATC a while back, and I met Carl. And so like you said, we started discussing these things. And as I shared my story with him about my many years in addiction, heroin, and in prison. And so he and I, we discussed this, like I said. And so I thought that it would be very important for me to share my story with people, you know.
Yeah.
I'm no longer in addiction, right? I'm searching for healing myself. And I think that I have something, or I can relate to a lot of people out there in the streets that have gone through the same things that I have gone, right? And like I said, I'm no longer in that addiction, and I'm finding ways to have a meaning and purpose now in life. And I think that's the best way to do is to communicate with these people that most people wouldn't want to communicate with, right? Bridge.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in prison, and I think that I'm able to connect to a lot of people in the same situations that I have been, easier and more understanding than people that haven't.
Yeah. Well, and we know that that's the case because that's why peer support works. That's why we have this whole
Absolutely,
peer support
yes.
program
Right.
here,
Mm-hmm.
right? You shared with me, Carl, a stat when we first started talking that was very sobering. And really, I think, shows what we are dealing with here as a recovery community, as a treatment organization that is battling right now, fighting against what we're seeing on the streets with the rise of fentanyl overdose over the last couple of years.
Right. Yes, we talked about, you know, I wanted to do a little bit of research, so we had some comparisons, some hard numbers of some sort, outside of showing the care and compassion towards people who are still in active addiction. Now, in September 11th, a very unfortunate day for Americans. We lost 2,999 96. 96.
Yeah.
People to September 11th. It was a horrible, horrible situation. And we broke out missiles over this. Not only did we break out missiles, but we flew our military over and decimated pretty much a whole country over this. Now, we have, last year's count was 74,856 people died of fentanyl overdoses. We're talking sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, whole families have been wiped out from this. So how can can
you sit idly by? Right?
Yeah, how can we not get our own boots on the ground here somehow? Yeah. We're talking about one of the largest domestic terrorism acts of all time happening right here on American soil.
Yeah.
And what are we doing about it?
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's several people out there in the lower 48 that are, they have just locally. We've seen the Dan Sullivan One Pill Can Kill, which is really, really good. Right.
Yeah.
The DEA has their own prevention program. They have Awkward Conversations podcast. Yeah. It's really good. And so we were like, hey, we got to get in this.
Right.
Because there's people out there counting on us to come out there and be bold in this.
Right.
And not sit around knowing these facts. There's just no way that we can consciously, without conviction, do that.
Right.
Right. So speaking of, I feel convicted. Like I was talking to him earlier about this, and me personally, because of my history and my involvement in certain things, right, I would have never taken a step forward in being bold and trying to talk about this and bringing things to light. But because I feel that just the way I was doing things, you never talk about these things, right? What's on the streets, you leave it on the streets, and you don't want to expose these things. But I think it's time for me personally to bring to light some of this, right? And I think that we have to somehow, some way, reach people and support them, because I realize that the way that how I got here today wasn't because of what I was doing, but it was because of the people around me that was loving me and trying to support me, right? That provided a healthy place for me to change and for them to pour into my life, right? So I believe that basically one person can't change himself. It's a group of people that have to initiate that and help others. So it takes a community to help people.
Yeah.
Right. Because one person isn't going to change by himself. I mean, they have to be able to find a healthy place or someone that wants to pour into their life. So I think it takes all of us. Right. Yeah. Because honestly, it wasn't me, but it was those around me that pour into me and love me enough to change.
Well, we know the opposite of addiction is connection. And when we were talking with some folks this year for Recovery Month, the number one thing that they said when they were in their addiction was how isolated they felt, how uncomfortable with themselves they felt, how they felt like no one saw them, no one understood them. The shame, right? Guilt. There's no love and shame, right?
Right. That's a good point, because that we talked about that also, and I feel that most of the time that I was in my addiction is because I felt shame, I felt conviction, I felt guilt, right? I felt I wasn't good enough, right? The narrative in my head was, I'm not good enough. Who loves me? Nobody loves me, and so there was no reason to change, or to even love myself, right? Because of this narrative in my head, and so I think that isolation is completely bad. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I was doing. I was isolating myself, running away from my family, running from those that loved me. Yeah. When I should have been running towards them, right? And I think that we all need to put in a little bit and try to help people. I mean, because how many times do we drive by and we see somebody on the street and we're just like, oh, well, you know what I mean? Right? And I think that it takes a community, like I said, you know what I mean? We all have to put in a little bit. It takes a group effort, because I would not be here today if it wasn't for those around me. Yeah. 100%, you know what I mean?
So with that in mind, tell me a little bit about the E.A.R project, what you guys are setting out to do.
Well...
So the E.A.R, I'll tackle this one real fast and then hand it over. So the E.A.R project, what we're trying to do is, once again, So the acronym is educate, awareness, and resuscitate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we really need to, and this is whether you're sitting lonely in your tent, hopeless, not knowing what you're going to do within the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you miss your family, whether you are sitting on the street corner or even if you're sitting in your plush living room on Upper Hillside.
Right.
Nobody's exempt from this.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It attacks everyone with reckless abandonment.
Right.
So we at the E.A.R Project, we have to be bold in this and really step out because how bold has fentanyl been?
Just about as bold as
Yeah,
any street drug that we've seen, right?
Yeah, it has marched its way into our country and started taking lives with reckless abandonment. Right? So we, like I said, we're just getting started out. And we're super thankful for the My House podcast to give us an opportunity, a chance to get in here and get our name out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to get into the schools.
Right.
We're looking to get on your doorstep.
Right.
We're going to end up in your neighborhoods, in your circles. And, we're the E.A.R Project, and you can expect us
Right.
everywhere.
Lend an ear.
Yeah.
Lend an ear.
And we're really hoping and counting on reaching congressmen, senators, mayors. This attacks everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no corner to hide in from this. There's so many people have been either directly or indirectly affected by this.
Well, I think the stat right now is that 1 out of 3 Alaskans have directly lost someone to fentanyl, someone
Absolutely,
that they know
yeah.
to fentanyl. It's that 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon thing where
Yeah.
you know this person that knows this person.
Sure.
It's 1 degree.
Mm-hmm.
For 1 out of 3 Alaskans, your best case scenario is that you're 3 degrees to someone that has overdosed from
Absolutely.
fentanyl, right?
Right.
And for a lot of people, it's less than that. It's someone that was directly in their life. So and to your earlier point, it's not just those people over there
Right.
could never happen to me, right? It is happening to everyone,
Absolutely.
regardless of class, regardless of where in the state they are. This is a statewide, a nationwide crisis,
Absolutely.
and we got to treat it as such.
Absolutely. Really, we
See, fentanyl comes in every which way form now. Before you used to be able to identify what fentanyl was, right? But fentanyl's been placed in meth. It's been put in different types of drugs, right? I don't know why they're doing that, but it's being they're combining these drugs with other drugs, and so you never know what you're getting. You smoke weed now and you get fentanyl. You do meth now, you get fentanyl. You do heroin, you get fentanyl, right? And so I think that there's just it's dangerous, man. You know what I mean? Because you really don't know what you're getting, and so you can't even trust the people that you were smoking with before. But they just smoke because you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You really don't know what you get. I was watching. We were watching something on TV the other day where a police officer pulls over a guy, and he doesn't even know it's fentanyl. He falls out.
yeah,
He falls out just from going through his things. Didn't even realize it was there, and so this cop is overdosing in the middle side of the road, right? Because it's a silent attacker. You don't know where it's going to come from, and so I think that we have to do something. All of us have to put in our part and do something. I feel that I feel convicted to do something, maybe because I participated, I was part of the problem, and I want to be part of the solution. I want to get out there and talk to people, to mothers that have been affected by this directly, honestly, because I feel that it will bring healing to me too. You know what I mean? Because I've done some damage out there, I've done some damage, and I don't feel good about it. And so I want to reach these people, and so the E.A.R Project for me, I think is, lend an ear so that you can hear our message.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that that's the basis of this, is communicating and letting people know that, someone cares, and the more people we can get on board with this, hey, more people to address these type of problems. I think, and like I said, I think it takes a community, not just one person, but all of us to combat this problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Perfect timing, because that was a great spot for Michelle to just jump right in.
Sorry, I was late. I was on the phone with a funder.
No worries.
You're all
They were
good.
just not ready to stop.
I figured that it was something critical, so I was like, we'll just go, and if you can swing on over.
Perfect.
So we'll just have, you know what? We're just gonna splice it right in here, and then Michelle is randomly going to appear out of nowhere. Hi, Michelle. Poof.
Hi,
The
how
magic
are you?
of editing. Ozzy, can you put like some purple smoke that like Michelle just
That would be
appears like a genie
Yeah, it's
out of a. So Michelle, we've been talking with Carl and Frank about the E.A.R project, about fentanyl awareness, recovery awareness, and one of the points that we were just making is how much this has impacted everyone in the state of Alaska, how 1 out of every 3 people in the state knows someone that has directly passed away because of an overdose. And I think even for us here, we have seen a lot of that in recent memory. And you were doing this when the opioid crisis really hit its first peak back in 2016. To me, it seems like now is as critical as a time as it was back then, with the amount of folks that we're seeing being affected by this.
Well, you know what the real difference is? In 2015, we lost 13 kids in 11 months from our programs. It was brutal.
Wow.
I found myself coming to work, and I would just be praying, like, God, please just let everybody be alive today.
Absolutely.
And I said that to my husband one day, and he looked at me and said, do you know how weird that is? I mean, that's weird. We worked with then Governor Walker and had some opioid legislation that we sponsored and encouraged and that got passed. And the bills for that were actually signed out here in our cafe.
Very nice.
And so we felt like we had impact and we could see that there was progress being made.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years, I mean, last year in the state of Alaska, 362 dead from overdose. And it's like this silent killer. There's no legislation. There's no one's talking about it.
Right.
If there were anything else that were taking people out of our society like that, it would be declared a national disaster.
And that's what we started
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
was Carl was making the comparison to 9/11, how many folks died in
Right?
that attack versus how many overdosed on fentanyl last
It's
year.
really weird, and the silence is from so many directions is it's really stunning.
Here's a little more of a hard fact here is that they're predicting in the United States by the end of the decade 1.2 million people.
Wow.
Canada is 600,000. So if that we're dealing with something that people put everybody on their heels,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what we don't understand, we fear.
Right.
So to back up off it's going to be a natural reaction, but now all we see is casualties.
Yeah.
You see casualties all this is a war zone almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It absolutely is.
It's almost like friendly fire.
Yeah.
You know, it's is upsetting to say the least, and if we don't act on this, we're going to be part of the problem rather than part of the solution.
That's right.
And I can speak for both of us. We've been part of the problem before
Right.
with the activities.
Right.
And it has weighed on us so much that we're so sick of, we even explored the possibility of we're going to start reaching out to mothers
Right.
where their daughters, their sons have perished from this.
Right.
They've directly lost loved ones. And no one's going to convey a message like a heartbroken mother.
Right.
And in hopes, what we really hope to happen is everybody experiences healing.
Yes.
That child is no longer just a death. It is something that they have used to get out there to educate people that now brings meaning and purpose in their life.
Right.
So not only are we, this is part of the antidote.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the only part we're working on something a little bit better, but right now we need to start healing so we can be in numbers and force on this. Because divided, we're not going to be able to have the upper hand in this fight.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, and what makes me really excited and hopeful is I truly believe that the Mat-Su recovery community is one of the most powerful recovery communities in the nation.
Right.
Not
Very
just in the
proactive,
state, but
yes.
Oh, man.
but
Absolutely.
just an incredible force for good. And if it's all right with you guys, I really want to be able to put a contact email or phone number in the description of this episode. We have so many advocates, so many organizations that are all, in the trenches right now fighting. And what you guys have here with E.A.R is just a very structured and well-defined effort to bring awareness to not just this group or that group,
right,
but everyone,
everybody.
Yeah. And one of the components of our philosophy of care is collaboration, and this to me is such a great opportunity to promote that, because I think if there's one thing that we do, not even just in recovery, but as a Matsu community, is collaborate. I mean, this organization wouldn't be here without collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Communication goes a long ways.
Right.
And if we're not communicating with one another, one of the first things that people do during a crisis time or a war is they shut down communication.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then they'll pull their dignitaries. But now we're flooded with this so deeply that even the jail system is a teetering point of overflowing with people who have desperately turned to crime to feed the substance use.
Right.
Yeah.
And something I was recently reading on was that, and it's a very, very interesting, it's a statement that may go either way. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe, and this is from a clinical standpoint, is that an individual, when they use a substance, genetically they can be predispositioned to where when they use it, their brain adapts to it.
That is correct.
Wow.
Yes.
And if they have the genetic loop for that, their brain adapts very quickly.
Yes. And now if you combine that with possible family trauma, trauma through their lives, I mean, we're looking at a social health crisis problem, and we need to be not only a project, but a movement in this. Collaborating, and thankfully we have people like my house, so you guys are helping us get this off the ground, and we are going to be standing in the gap, making the connections between people. We have a lot of referrals for healthcare, medically assisted treatment, places people can go, because right now it's frightening, and they're carrying around that stigma that's been attached to them by people who really don't understand, because they fear it so much they stand back from it. So we need to get some education out there to people, and some compassion for people, rather than let's not just look that way and drive on by.
Right.
It's very important, and we carry a very huge, passionate part of our hearts in this, because, like I said, one time we was part of the problem.
Right. I mean, I understand this because, I came from a broken home, right? And so I had trauma. And so I think that I turned to drugs to fill in the gap. Something was missing, right? And so I turned to drugs. And I'm sure that coming out of a broken home and traumatic home or trauma, that there's a lot of people out there that are suffering from trauma, right? Or mental health issues, right? And don't know how to cope or process. And so they run from their problems. That's all I've ever done, is run from my problems and run to something that accept me, which was the street and drugs, right? And so I just kept spiraling. So I imagine how many people out there are going through the same situation and haven't had an opportunity like I have to turn away from drugs. And I think that everyone should have that opportunity. We should all try to, like I said, do something about it, So, yeah.
Well, as we close, I want to provide folks with some resources. So first of all, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Through our email, alvarezfj, fj80 @gmail.com.
We're going to put that in the description. Be on the lookout for more stuff with Carl and Frank here in the next coming months. We've got some exciting projects I'm excited to collaborate on, that's going to help get the information out. If you're a member of a Rotary group or a community council or something, and you want a presentation, again, that email will be in the description to reach out.
I made a mistake. It's Alvarez FJR80. Excuse me.
AlvarezFJR80 at gmail.com. So we're going to put that in the description, the correct one.
Yeah,
and
there's a phone
then
number too.
also the maybe can we plug the mobile crisis team phone number? Do you know that off the top of your head, Michelle? Is it 313-1333?
Yes, it is.
Or MATCOM, and they are also able to dispatch the mobile crisis team from TNR. True North Recovery's phone number, you can call the same number. Set Free Alaska, Banyan Treatment, we will put all those in the description.
There's also Adult and Teen Challenge.
ATC, and you guys are partnered with this
Yes,
idea
we
Impact
are.
with Adult and Teen Challenge, right?
And we've they've been very big supporters of us
Yes.
all. Pastor Randall and Ryan Mendiola,
That's right.
Jason Touchstone.
Right.
All those people over there have really, really been big supporters of us. And of course, my house for letting us on here, man. Nobody else. We didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
We're like,
That's how you start.
Yeah, we're
That's how
like,
you start. You just figure it out. Let's go.
I told Frank, I was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, I don't know, but let's go. I was like,
just
all right,
go.
here we go. So
Sometimes that's how you got to start, right?
yeah.
You
And Miss
gotta
Ori,
go.
Miss Ori is the one that brought us over to to introduce us to you guys, and she
right.
speaks so highly of you all also.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Carl and Frank for being here today. The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Ozzie Keener. I'm Michelle Overstreet. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.